Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Ambitious Casual. My name is Rob, and I'm joined today by my co-host on the XP podcast, Adam. How you doing, Adam?
I'm pretty good. I don't know if my dog's bark just came through or not, but she waited until we started to bark. So that
Perfect.
was exciting.
Perfect. Yeah, I did not hear a single thing. Um,
Perfect.
and along with Adam, we were joined with a special guest, someone who has worked at IGN as an associate guides editor and writer, and left to go independent. Is a YouTuber, Twitch streamer, has guest hosted on many podcasts, and is the host is a host for the Min Max Show and PS I Love You XOXO. We have Gam Onesis, aka Janet Garcia, on the show. Thank you and
Hey.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, we I've followed the things that you've done recently. I think it's thanks to Kind of Funny. I've grown up watching Kind of Funny a lot, and so when you were popping up on some of the games daily, that's when I became more aware of you, especially at the beginning of this year. And so it's been awesome seeing you go independent and your journey and all of that. And that kind of technically leads into my first question, and that is, I just want to know, how has being an independent content creator been for you? It's been, your journey is kind of different because you came from IGN and then you went to go independent, and you've hosted on a lot of the other shows. So I want to know, how's your journey been so far?
Yeah, it's been pretty good overall. Can't really complain too much given that I'm still out here. And I think that's kind of when you're freelancing, you're sort of trying to keep the game going and you have these different goals in your head about, whether it's about building up a resume or hitting a certain financial number or maybe just working on certain projects that you're really passionate about. It is nice now to be at the point where I am stable enough that I can pretty easily keep things going without needing to approach things from a place of desperation, which I
Yeah.
think is, what kind of scored my entry into the industry because I think to a lot of people, I did get my start at IGN, but pre that, I was, no one from nowhere, right? We're from just small outlets that people probably still haven't heard of that I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote like 80 news posts for this like one site or this many features, or I
hmm
was I did a YouTube channel called Bit by Bit that had like 80 videos that like not a whole lot of people watched. And I did all of that stuff. So I think it is important to highlight that for sure. Cause a lot of people were like, oh, how do you get there? I'm like, it's most likely through the thing you might already be doing. It's like,
Right.
just keep going. And
Right.
maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but who knows? But yeah, it's a good position. And I get to now just take on projects that I'm passionate about with amazing people in the industry. And it feels really good to just be working with so many like talented individuals where I feel like, I don't know, in some ways I'm still near the bottom or the beginning, even though I know that's not really true, and trying to wrap my head around those things and everything. But it's been a great year. There's more I want to do. We'll see. A bit slower paced in ways, but also not like I would have predicted. Like when I went into this, I'm like, I want to do my Patreon and my Twitch and my
Mhm.
podcast. And I didn't really envision Min Max or Kind of Funny or any of those things playing a role. So to be able to be on those shows with those people has been lovely.
Yeah, yeah, and something that I've noticed, and this is just from following you, it could be very different in the background because we just see things through just one scope, which is through Twitter or whatever. How has it been for you in regards to balancing all these kinds of things? I'm just one person who edits these videos and stuff, and I've had my days where I've been up to 3 o'clock in the morning or have done that kind of stuff, and it's sometimes not healthy whatsoever. And I think what's been nice to seeing you, you post that you go roller skating sometimes, which is
hmm
awesome. I used to rollerblade when I was younger all the time, and I miss it. But it's nice to see that because it shows that you have something else other than gaming. And I think that's something that's very important. And I see like there's some people like Paris. I love that he posts that he's running or things like that. And we
hmm
sometimes you need more than just being in games. Sometimes you need to separate yourself a bit so that we come back refreshed. How has your balance been so far?
It's been not that great. But I do try to highlight those things 'cause I think they're important. Like I really do try to show all the different pieces. Obviously I think my hours are still skewing on the higher end than I'd like. My dream work week is like a 3 day off work week
Yeah,
versus this
Yeah.
current work week, which is like a 1 day off work week,
yeah,
hopefully, usually. It does get kind of a little chaotic. I think just because I spend also a lot of time, like, I think you probably relate to this, where you're sort of gearing up to work. So even like the hour between, I did min max right before this, and I had like an hour like gap, and I kind of just use that to like lay down and like decompress on TikTok. But that's not really, I'm not working, but I'm not resting either. I'm kind of
Correct.
just trying to have the energy to come here and be my best self. So I think there's a lot within that, but certainly I think it's important to highlight that you need to do different things, take care of yourself. Like
Mhm.
health's a really big priority for me. Jared Petty gave me some great advice when I was first starting this part of my career, where he's like, you're going to want to do a lot of stuff, but before you do any of that or sit down and plan all your content that you want to do, I want you to first plan like how you're going to be you and get that schedule down, and then put the other
Mm.
stuff in after, because if you don't do it that way, you'll never be able to make time for the other stuff. So I really have gotten up early and gone with my friend to the gym and done those things, and I do need to get better at some elements of those. Like I play piano, and I often don't make time to practice because I just don't get to it, and then I get tired and
Right.
all these other things. Same deal with like hanging out with family and all that. I'm really trying to get better at saying yes to that kind of stuff, because I know I'm so quick to say yes to like trying to figure out how to fit this review in to
Right.
a degree that I'm not with like hanging out with my family. So I'm trying to work on that. I'm definitely far from perfect, but it is nice to hear, from people like you that the few things I do like show off on social media or talk about are helpful to people or help highlight that. Cause I think so often people see rest as just not being productive. But the way that I've been able to still take vacations and do things is because I'm like, well, if I don't take this time, like I'm not going to be able to keep going, and I want to keep going. So I need to stop doing what I'm doing if I want to make sure like maintaining my career is also part of stepping away and having like, every now and then a week where I don't really
Right.
play any games at all and just
Right.
do other stuff.
And I think
Yeah.
oh, sorry, you go for it now. Go for it.
No, yeah, I was going to say, like, it just keeps you fresh. Like, to me, it like speaks so much to that on PS, I love you, that your tagline now with kind of funny. I don't remember exactly, but game playing, roller skating, and just how that like stuff that you do for yourself ends up like keeping you, like, I don't know, objective. I think in a way, I think it's easy to get. I imagine it would be easy to get too like stuck head down in things and kind of just be like dumping hours, not knowing like how it's going to turn out. Um, so I guess I actually wonder, when you are like figuring out hours that you're going to spend, does it feel like you have a good track on, these 5 hours are going to bring this much results, or is it still kind of like a estimation game at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think something I've started to accept is that you're never really going to have it as perfect as you dream about having it. I think, especially as life changes and projects change and people who you work with and what your responsibilities are probably constantly changing for good reasons. But it also means that, like, you're never going to have that perfect schedule. So I've kind of, accepted that part, but also I think you should still probably pursue working on that. So for me, what I've implemented lately is using Google Calendar. Not these things don't work perfectly.
Yeah.
Like this is like how I have it
Right,
set up right
right,
now,
right.
where I'll slot, in the morning I have like I'm working out, and then I'll slot in, especially because I share the workspace with my boyfriend Isaiah, who is also streams on here, and he like does web dev stuff and all that. So we kind of have to know what everyone's doing. So I'll have like in red the stuff where I'm like recording something, and then in purple I have like when I'm streaming on Twitch, and then I like generically slot lunch around the same time to kind of remind myself that like you probably need to put eating somewhere in there, even on like really busy days. And then I kind of just have like dinner, same thing, kind of a generic thing. Bedtime, it's listed at 10. I don't go to bed at 10. I go to bed at like 12, but I'm dreaming here.
Yeah.
And then with the in between stuff, I try to, it depends on like if I have a project. Like a few weeks ago, I reviewed Where the Heart Leads. So I'm like, okay, somewhere in this week, I have to slot a couple hours, like X amount of hours to play. I don't know how long it's going to take me. Let's try to go hard on gameplay on, Wednesday, because Wednesday is like a lighter day in that week or something. And then I kind of try to map out, okay, when should I have the game done so that I can do the draft of the review and then do the video. Of course, it didn't work out, and I ended up doing like the written review and like the script draft and like the recording and then the editing like on like one very long
Mhm.
Saturday,
Yeah.
because it just didn't. I tried timing it and it didn't work out. But another thing I've started using is Toggle, which is like
Yeah.
a website / software. Yeah,
Aware.
okay, so
Yeah.
you're familiar. Yes, the Toggle gods. But basically, what you can do with that, for those who are unfamiliar, is like you can like mark projects and things, kind of meant for like freelancers if you want to like charge for stuff and track your times. So I'm starting to realize that like my podcast takes like maybe 5 hours to do, which sounds kind of crazy because it's like a 30-minute show. But like by the time I like get the news, and then I write the run a show, a skeleton, and then I record it, and then I video edit it, and then I like export and upload it and do all those steps. So things like that have helped me kind of understand how long some things take me. I'm hoping to use that data to like, my dream would be I make a schedule that I really can stick to and execute on and have everything land where it's supposed to land and there aren't any surprises.
Yeah.
That usually doesn't happen, but that's kind of where I start from. So like, next week I'll probably look at my calendar like, all right, I was supposed to do a YouTube video. I haven't done that yet. Can I slot like when I'm doing the script and all that other stuff?
Right, right. And I think I should have like started this all like the beginning of this question by like you're obviously not speaking for all content creators. What I love is that I just want to know your journey, because my hope is to have more other people come on and just I want to know what their experience is like, because it's so different from person to person. And I agree with you. Like last night, I was playing Red Dead 2, and the whole time in my mind I was starting to get anxious. I'm like, man, I can probably figure out some sort of way to make a video right now. But I had to constantly tell myself, like, no, just you need to decompress. You just need to just do what you're doing for right now, because you can't always just be working all the time, you know?
Mhm.
And I know you do your weekly show. I used to do that, that covered the week's gaming news. I'm not gonna lie, for me personally, it sucked. Like
It's hell. It's the worst thing.
it is. It is so bad, because I would every day, because I have my own job that I do during the day from 9 to 5, and then sometimes it can be 5 days out of the week, it can be 7 days out of the week, and I'll come home, take a shower, eat dinner, and then go online, write down all the bits of news. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Starting from Monday through Friday, Friday night, be like, okay, what do I not need? Let me clean this up, record it, edit Saturday, go up on Monday. And I was like, I had to stop. I was like, this is not fun anymore to me. And so with that, I kind of want to ask for you where you're at, because you do a lot of things. What is like your favorite thing that you do so far with all the different, pieces of content that you do during your week? You do podcasts, you make your own videos. You said you do reviews. Like, what is the thing that you like the most so far?
It's a tie probably between my Twitch streams and doing reviews, I think.
Okay.
Even though I really love podcasting, and that's probably, I guess time wise, I probably spend more hours on Twitch than anything else, even
Okay.
with Kind of Funny and MinMax combined. They get pretty close, maybe if I have games daily. But what I like about the Twitch streams is it kind of keeps, well, one, it's like when I do most of my gaming, to be honest. I love games so much, but I've never been that person who can, like, I know so many industry peers who are like, yeah, like then tonight I just queued up this recent game and I sunk, 6 hours in or something. Like, I don't know. I get tired. Like, I can't just, I love gaming, but it at the end of the day, I'm not gonna just like, now to unwind, I'm gonna do this thing that I know I'm doing so that I could like talk about it on a show. Like, it doesn't really compute for me. So streaming has been a great way to, keep myself on track with playing all the stuff I want to play. And I like talking to people about games, and that's like immediate. You get to do that. It also helps, I think, hone like my voice as a critic, because I'm constantly in the moment having critique or forming thoughts on games, because that's like the nature of Twitch. And then with reviews, it's kind of similar, where I just love criticism is my favorite thing. Like, I like podcasts because I get to go on and casually engage in criticism with peers and
Right.
come to conclusions and hear about new games and all these other things. And I like reviews as like a written version of that. It's the only, real writing I've done lately. It's my favorite kind of writing. So those would be my two favorite ones of the things I do.
Mm. In your process of reviewing, are you the kind of person that writes while you play, or are you the kind of person that plays and then when you're done you kind of like, okay, jot things down? Like, I've reviewed, I think on my channel, like my most recent review was on Returnal, and
Nice.
I'm not gonna lie, this all sounds, for me talking so far right now, it sounds like I hate doing everything that I'm doing, and that's
No,
not.
but that's like that. I love that you have that vibe, because so many people are like, I love it. It's so fun. And I love this industry so much, and it is fun. But a lot of times it's just staring at Adobe Premiere, and it's a grind.
Yes, yes,
Like,
absolutely. And there's some times where I love the idea of reading a book, but I'd much rather watch the movie. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, when I was like writing the review for Returnal, I'd be just looking at my Pages doc and just be like, God, I know I can use a different word than that, and then stress over that, and then I'm like, I just
Mhm.
don't like doing this anymore. Can I just free ball this? Like, can I just like turn the camera off? All right, guys, blah 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 blah, and then I know I'll forget something. So for
Yeah.
you, when you review, how's your process on that?
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing people's like different. I'd love to hear y'all's take too on how that process goes for you from like beginning to end because everyone has such a different approach to it, and I think it's really interesting. For me, I have basically developed where I have a couple things I do. One, I read the PR email really closely just to get a feel for
Mm,
like more details on not just the game, but like how do they, how do they perceive their game? Like what am I going into? I also try to see, like does it mention how long this game takes so I can budget my time accordingly,
right.
as well as like if there's any, just additional information you would need. I feel like it's very exciting to get a code and start playing. I also just download it immediately because sometimes you might not get to play it the day you get the code, but you want to
Right.
already have it ready to go. So when you sit down, you're not
Mhm.
queuing it up for 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
I'll do that. And then I will go ahead and have my iPad with a little keyboard near me while I play. I usually do sit just at my sofa. Sometimes I'll do it at a desk, but usually I prefer just sitting at my sofa. I'll do so far I've just been doing like regular capture. If I'm playing off like the PS5, they can record for up to an hour. It's not the highest quality video. Like if you wanted like true 4K and stuff, you would need to use like ancillary software, but I have like a pretty weak laptop, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes I do capture otherwise, like on an Elgato or something. So I'll set up my capture if I need to set up capture, start recording everything immediately just so I have some stuff like B-roll stuff to use. And I'll just write down notes of things that stand out to me. So I think if you go back to my Twitter, which is probably buried by the time anyone hears this, at Gameonesis, I had like a little thread on, hey, I'm playing Death's Door. Like, here's what I think. And I started writing down, just quick thoughts I had on the game. Those are the kind of things I'd probably have in a notes app on
Mhm.
my iPad. And then I later go back and use that as the starting point of my review. I also pull from like the game's website again, how they describe the game, and I pull that into my review doc. I don't use any of that language because it'd be weird, but just to kind of, you have to kind of do that opening where you sort of explain what the game is, but not just explaining what the game is, because then you're not really doing a review, you're doing a summary of the game. And then another thing I do as a zag is when I'm done with the game, especially I live in a household that has other people that play games. If I'm having I talk through a lot of my thoughts too with like the people in my house, assuming
Mm.
that if you have people you can trust that are going to break embargo, I'll mention, oh yeah, I'm thinking this, whatever. And this happened with Where the Heart Leads, which is the last game I reviewed. I was talking to my partner about it, and I felt like I was kind of like making some good points. So I just took out my voice recorder on my iPhone and I hit play.
Mm.
And when I sat down and do my review, I wrote out that transcript. I also do, when I do my first draft of a review, I try to write for 25 minutes straight, nonstop, literally everything I can possibly think of related to what I think of the game. And we'll have like weird garbage, rambly stuff like, something like, oh, I don't know, something about the jumps. They were weird, but they were also cool. I like this one part, like just nonsense, just
Yeah.
complete nonstop writing. And then I'll go back in and I'll start to like craft it into sections in my mind. Like I'll think of, okay, I want a section that is going to touch on the story. And try to think of a cool like subhead for that. Okay, I want a section that's going to dig into like this other element. Not trying to make it super like basic where it's like gameplay, story, whatever. Though some people do reviews like that. I'm not saying that's wrong. It's just not
Right.
how I like
Right.
to do it. And then that's kind of how I get to take shape. I have my brother at this point editing it because he's like a good writer. Doesn't do games, but he still writes, so he's my only editor at this
Mm.
point. And he'll kind of come in with some comments sometimes, and then I'll just get the final draft together. Usually, I can do it in about maybe like 3 drafts or something, like a word vomit one, the first one, and then a second one, with the goal of hitting about like 700 to 1,000 words, ideally for a review.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah,
and then
very
it's
cool.
done, and then you do it again.
I think what's interesting is so I've done okay, so I did a couple of reviews. One was for the medium and the other one was for Little Nightmares 2. But the way
I
that
just
these were
beat the medium.
awesome, did you like it?
Yeah, you did.
not not really, not really, but it would be an interesting one to review. I think there's a lot of like interesting layers going on with that game.
I think the word interesting describes that game
Yes.
a lot. I did a 30-second review for both of those on TikTok. This was around the time where I
Nice.
was like, you know what, let me jump into TikTok and let me see how I can fully utilize this. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. But what I loved it because it really made me think I need to really put only the meat in this 30-second thing and then try to talk as fast as I can, but not too fast where the people can't understand, blah, blah, blah. And so those I enjoyed. And when I was playing those games, I kind of was taking notes on the side. Um, when I was playing Returnal, there was no notes taken in the moment. I was I was completely enthralled in that game and so many emotions. So that when I was done, when I was like, okay, I'm done for the night. I'm done. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm done. I'll
Hmm.
pull out my notebook and then just be like, just write a couple things that I remember. And I will say there were moments where when I was done with that, and I would go listen to what other people would say, be like, man, that's so right. I totally forgot about that one
Hmm.
thing. And that is where kind of like writing down as you're reviewing, in my case, is important because that way you don't forget the smaller details for some people that might be important, but you just forgot, you know? And so
Yeah.
that's how I've usually done those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think I lean that way too. I'm kind of doing something similar with Bloodborne right now, which I'm playing for the first time. Like, I'm not writing notes after every game session, but like I feel very strongly about it in this moment. So I'm like, let me make sure I write this down. Up to this point, this is how I feel about this game, especially compared to Dark Souls. And then, I'll see where I ends up later. I have a feeling it's like going to end great, but if the first third kind of feels blah, that kind of like affects how good of a job the game did overall. And it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
good to remember
Having
that.
that arc is really good for sure. I think too, as far as remembering things, one thing I do on top of at least capturing the beginning sections of a game, because usually when you use capture, it's mostly going to be from the beginning of the game anyway because of spoilers and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll also use whatever the in-game capture is to like clip something that I know I'm going to want to talk about. So to give an example, in like I don't know, Death's Door, if I want to talk about the boss battles, I'll know that like, okay, I'm going to clip this section. Or if I want to talk about, like cool secrets, like maybe I'll find something and I'm like, this is cool, I know I want to use this for the review, so I'm going to clip it. And then you can even do that if you're using like additional capture software, because then you could just look back at your like quick capture and be like, okay, I'm going to scrub through the footage to find it like in my Elgato capture or my like longer form capture. And then having like the gameplay recorded too can be really helpful for just remembering different details of it. Like that way you don't have to boot up the game when you're like writing your review. You could just pull up like a clip and be like, okay, well, I took these screenshots of this menu so I can kind of, figure it out that way instead of
Right.
trying to remember something from like, 4 days ago.
Right. And I appreciate the fact that you said, I think you mentioned that you didn't have like a very strong laptop for capturing things. Man, the the reviews that I did for Little Nightmares and the Medium, I I have a 2015 MacBook. This thing can barely do what we're doing right now. And so I would have to grab my Twitch streams and then zoom in to where my camera wasn't being shown and then use that decompressed video as my footage. Holy God Almighty! This is a if you don't have the right equipment, you got to get very creative on how to do this kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah, I think B-roll really helps for that too. Like just grabbing trailer foot. Like that's, and sometimes too, like I think it's important to remember, like if you're out there listening and you do your own content or want to, like sometimes you know what you want it to be, but it just isn't really worth what it'll take out of you. So you just got to make it good enough, and that can be okay. Like I had that with Where the Heart Leads, where it's a story driven game, so the capture is going to be awkward anyway because it's not like no one's going to sit there and like read through like all the text. So I kind of just need like some shots, but like I know when I was doing like my VO underneath it, I'm like, okay, like this would be great to put like X clip in there, but I don't have X clip. I don't really have the time to boot it up and replay the section I'm like, you know what? It's just going to be a lot of trailer footage and a few like generic clips in there. And it's not as good as I'd like it to be, but it is good enough. And
right.
that's going to be okay for today because it's Saturday. It's 9 o'clock. It's time to it's time to wrap this up. It's time to
Right.
get this project done so we can move on to other things.
Right.